סליאר, שהיא שליחת RT למזרח התיכון. Good morning, Paula.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. So I saw the reaction of the Kremlin yesterday. It was to the discussion between the presidents of Russia and the United States. It was something like, this is absurd, the hysteria is absurd. What do you mean? I mean, everybody thinks there is going to be a war and only the Russians are laughing at it? Please try to explain us.
Well, it's not true that everybody thinks there's going to be a war. From the beginning, Moscow has been quite clear that it doesn't have any intention and won't have anything to gain by invading Ukraine. The comments that came out of the Russian Foreign Ministry yesterday after that almost 1 hour phone call between the two presidents were to quote, unprecedented hysteria on the side of the United States. So basically 2 points. Putin is criticizing the West for what he says is pumping up and militarizing Ukraine of modern weaponry. Basically, what we're seeing is the West encouraging Kiev to use force in the East. And what the position is for Moscow is that this will then allow for any kind of provocative actions because the justification has already been put in place.
Paula,
we see it particularly with the Western media encouraging such actions.
Excuse me for interfering, but you know, Putin can do whatever he wants. Also, he can stop all this crazy dance around the word war by saying, I'm not going to invade, I'm going to pull back all my forces, all my soldiers that are on the border, and that's it. Game over. But he's still sending soldiers to the Ukrainian border. So, you know, he's playing the game.
No, let me answer in 2 ways. How would Israel react if suddenly there was a deployment of troops on the Lebanese or Syrian border? Israel, of course, would have within its right to send its own soldiers to the border if it was concerned of any kind of provocative action coming from across the border. So this has been Russia's position from the beginning, is that there was a provocation on the side of the Europeans in terms of NATO, in terms of a buildup of troops and military prowess in Ukraine. And this is a provocation
yes, but
Russia.
Nobody with a clear mind can think of Ukraine, excuse me, but nobody with a clear mind can think of Ukraine invading Russia. I mean, it doesn't matter how many forces the Ukrainians are putting on the border. Nobody thinks, or only crazy people, that the Ukrainians tend to invade Russia. This is absurd.
Let me answer in a different way. I covered the last war in 2014 for 1.5 years, reporting inside Ukraine. At that time, Russia took over Crimea, and Russia could easily have taken over eastern Ukraine if it wanted to. And certainly the people I interviewed in eastern Ukraine were disappointed that Putin hadn't come and taken over eastern Ukraine. If Russia really wanted the Donbas region, it would have done it some 8 years ago. But Putin doesn't want that area. And it doesn't make sense for the Europeans. You say Ukraine is not going to invade Russia. Well, why then are the Europeans and why then is Ukraine allowing the Europeans to provoke Russia by building up their military might, by sending troops to the border? It is fully within Russia's right to act in defensive capacity for its borders. The provocation is coming from the other side.
So what is the bottom line, Paula? What is the bottom line? What does Putin want to gain after all this chaos that has aroused in the past few weeks?
He wants to show that he is not to be messed with. You cannot make threats, potentially, even if it's not overtly so, but you cannot increase Ukraine, be involved. I mean, he argues that the West is trying to increase its military clout on the European continent. At the same time, he also argues that they're trying to create divisions between Russia and the former Soviet state. For example, there was great opportunity for economic integration between Ukraine and Russia and other countries. The Americans really have worked against that. So his argument is really, what are they doing in an area that is far from home? It's on Russia's border, and they are a provocation. They mustn't think that Putin's just going to sit back and allow the Americans and the Europeans to use Ukraine as a pawn and do whatever they want across Russia's borders.
Okay, Dr. Klauber wants to ask you something.
No, אני רציתי להגיב רגע מתרגמים?
לא, דבר.
מדובר על קודם כל משהו שהוא מאוד בעייתי מבחינה אידיאולוגית, כי Russia Today, אנחנו יודעים את הרקע של הערוץ הזה, אבל כשאנחנו מדברים על התפשטות של נאט"ו, נאט"ו לא התפשט לאוקראינה, אנחנו צריכים להבין שמדינות ברחו לנאט"ו, נאט"ו זה לא כוח אקטיבי שמתפשט וגורם למדינות להצטרף אליו.
הם ברחו לנאט"ו בתחושה של איום מצד רוסיה.
בגלל שיש איום, בגלל שרוסיה לא עומדת בהסכמים שהיא חתמה. ב-1994 רוסיה חתמה על הסכמים בבודפשט, ושהגבולות של אוקראינה הם קדושים, ורוסיה עצמה ב-2014 פלשה לאוקראינה.
So if I ask you to bet on war or no war, Paula, you're going to say what? No war?
I'm going to say no war. It's not in Russia's interest to have this war. It's not in America's interest unless Biden has political points to gain and unless the Ukrainians are trying to, in a desperate effort, join NATO. But from the Russian point of view, I just don't see what advantage there is for them.
Okay. I'm going to bet on it with you. Just for the sake of the world. Paula, thank you so much for joining us. Paula, Sliaר, שליחת, ארטי למזרח התיכון. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And hopefully we'll be in touch in peaceful time.